Albert Einstein is one of the most popular scientists that we know about today. And this means that many people know his name and some of his most famous quotes like, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." But not everyone knows the full story about Albert Einstein, especially when it comes to how he thinks. They form mental images in their head and then use those images to come up with solutions to problems. People with photo memory can recall every detail of an event, including what they were wearing, what the weather was like, and even what time it was. Einstein had a photographic memory. This meant that he could remember every lesson he ever learned, and he never had to study again. He could also recall every detail of every experiment he ever performed. In fact, Einstein was not a very logical person. Most people think that being a genius means being complicated. However, this is not always the case. In fact, Einstein was a very simple person. He was a very humble person who was not afraid to admit when he didn't know something. He was selfish when it came to his work, and he was willing to put everything else aside in order to focus on his research. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and leave a comment below of what you think about Einstein's thought process. See you in the next video. This is what allowed him to make some of the most important discoveries in history. Of course, it's important to be selfless and to help others, but it's also important to be selfish and to take care of ourselves. We all have to find the right balance between being selfless and selfish. But one thing's for sure, Einstein was a selfless person, and he changed the world because of it. He was also very down to earth, and he was not afraid to get his hands dirty. He believed that everyone could understand complex ideas if they were presented in a simple way. That's why he made it a point to make his theories as understandable as possible. He used analogies and metaphors to explain his theories, and he avoided using jargon. This is a very valuable lesson for all of us. We should not be afraid to keep things simple. We should not try to impress people with our intelligence. Instead, we should try to make things as understandable as possible. He was a very creative person who came up with some of the most innovative ideas in history. He was able to do this because he was not constrained by logic. He was not afraid to think outside the box and to come up with new and different ideas. This is a very valuable lesson for all of us. We should not be afraid to be creative and to think outside the box. We should not let logic constrain our thinking. Instead, we should allow our imaginations to run wild and see what we can come up with. You never know. We might just surprise ourselves with what we're capable of. This gave him an incredible advantage over other scientists, and it allowed him to come up with some of the most brilliant insights in history. Einstein's photo memory was so good that he could remember the face of every person he ever met. One of the most important lessons that we can learn from Einstein is to trust the process. Einstein was a firm believer in the scientific method, and he trusted the process of testing hypotheses and gathering data. He knew that the process worked, and he trusted that it would eventually lead to the truth. This is an important lesson for all of us. We should not be afraid of the unknown. We should not be afraid to question things. Instead, we should trust the process of finding the truth. We should be willing to put in the work and effort required to find the answers we were looking for. He could also recall every book he ever read, and he could recite entire passages from memory. This is an amazing ability, and it's something that has helped him to become one of the most successful scientists of all time. However, Einstein thought in pictures. He was a visual thinker who could imagine things in great detail and then use those images to develop his theories. He was a firm believer in spontaneity, and he believed that planning ahead was a waste of time. Our principles are the things that we believe in, and the things that guide our decisions, are the things that make us who we are. Einstein had strong principles, and he never compromised them. He was a pacifist, and he never fought in wars. He was a civil rights activist, and he fought for the rights of all people. He was an environmentalist, and he fought to protect the environment. Einstein's principles were a big part of who he was, and they guided his decisions throughout his life. He was willing to stand up for what he believed in, and he wasn't afraid to speak out against injustice. This is an important lesson for all of us. We should have principles that guide our decisions, and we should be willing to stand up for what we believe in. He said, "I never plan my day. If it is plain, I concentrate all the more on doing one thing at a time, and do that well." Einstein was a very busy man. He had a lot of responsibilities, but he never let that stress him out. He was always calm and relaxed, and he was never in a hurry. He believed that rushing around was a sign of insecurity, and he never felt the need to rush. This is a very freeing way to live your life, and it's something that we can all aspire to. Of course, it's not always easy to just relax and go with the flow. Sometimes we have responsibilities that require us to plan ahead, but we can all learn from Einstein's example. When we feel ourselves getting stressed out and overwhelmed, we can take a step back and relax. We can remind ourselves that it's okay to not have everything planned out, and that sometimes it is better to go with the flow. This is one of the reasons why he was such a brilliant scientist. He could see things that others couldn't see, and he could come up with solutions that no one else could think of. Einstein once said that he could picture the result of an experiment before it even happened. He could see the data in his mind and knew what the results would be. This is an incredible ability, and it's something that most people don't have. Einstein used this ability to develop some of his most famous theories, including his theory of relativity. He was able to see the universe in a new way, and he used that to develop one of the most groundbreaking theories of our time. That's why in this video, we're going to look at the full story about Albert Einstein's mind. We will be looking at 9 untold and mind-blowing facts about his thought process that will leave you shocked. So make sure to stick around until the end to find out all of them. Also, please subscribe so you don't miss out on similar videos. Let's start. Number 1, he thinks outside the box. If there's anything that sets Einstein apart from other scientists, it is his ability to think outside the box. His way of thinking was unique. In fact, no one has been able to match it up until now. Einstein was once faced with a problem that had stumped scientists for years. They had no idea how to solve it. But Einstein sat down and thought about it, and before anyone could realize what had happened, he had already figured out the solution. When asked about it, he simply said that he thought about the problem while riding a bicycle. It didn't take him long to figure it out. As soon as he got an idea, he took a piece of paper and started writing frantically. The rest is history. This shows us that Einstein thought outside the box and didn't let himself be limited by the boundaries of science. 2, he thinks visually. Most people think in words. No. 3, he has photo memory. Photo memory is the ability to remember everything that you see. 4, he doesn't plan his day. While most people plan their days in advance, Einstein never did. No. 5, he has principles. One of the most important things that we can have is our principles. Number 6, he doesn't think logically. Most people think that scientists are logical people who make decisions based on reason. However, this is not always the case. Number 7, he keeps it simple. 8, he trusts the process. 9, he is selfish. It might sound surprising, but one of the most important traits of Einstein was his selfishness. Thank you for watching.